My name is Claire. I'm 26 years old, and my mornings follow a quiet routine. Every weekday before going to my small job at the publishing office, I stop at my favorite corner coffee shop. It isn't fancy, just a little place with warm wooden tables, the smell of roasted beans in the air, and soft music playing in the background. For me, coffee was more than just a drink. It was a pause before the chaos of the day, a chance to breathe, to collect my thoughts, and to imagine that life could still surprise me in sweet ways. And it did, because one ordinary Monday, life handed me a surprise I wasn't ready for. He was there, a stranger leaning casually against the counter, his brown hair a little messy, his smile too charming to ignore. He ordered a cappuccino, turned, and caught me looking at him. Instead of brushing it off, he smiled right at me, a smile that felt like a spark. "Good morning," he said. I muttered a soft, "Hi," embarrassed at being caught staring. But the next day, he was there again, and the next. Soon, our mornings became a kind of ritual. He would flirt playfully, slipping comments like, "Don't tell me you always look this perfect before work," or, "You're the reason I look forward to mornings now." His words made me blush, but they also made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. I didn't know his name for the first week, but eventually, over shared smiles and laughter, he told me. "Daniel," he said, holding out his hand. I shook it. "Claire." From then on, it was Daniel and Claire, two strangers who were slowly becoming something more. We didn't exchange numbers. We didn't make promises, but somehow we both kept showing up at the same time every morning, as if the universe had written our names into the same story. Sometimes we sat together talking about music, books, and silly things like which pastry was truly the best in the shop. Other times we just shared comfortable silence, sipping our drinks, glancing at each other, smiling for no reason. It felt innocent. It felt exciting. It felt like fate. One Saturday evening, my best friend Julia invited me over. She and I had been close since college. She was bold, funny, and had always been the one to give me advice about love. She had a new boyfriend, someone she wanted me to meet. "You like him?" she said with a mysterious grin. I didn't think much of it until the door opened, and he walked in. Daniel, my Daniel, the coffee shop stranger who made my mornings brighter. I froze. My cup almost slipped from my hand. His eyes widened for a fraction of a second before he smoothed it over with that same charming smile. "Claire, this is Daniel," Julia said proudly, slipping her arm through his. "My boyfriend." The word boyfriend crashed into me like cold water. I forced a smile, but my heart was racing, my stomach twisting. I could barely hear what they were saying. All I could see was him standing beside my best friend, the same man who had made me believe our connection was real. That night, I barely spoke. I nodded at Julia's stories. I laughed at the right times, but inside I was breaking. When Daniel excused himself to the kitchen, he glanced at me quickly, an unspoken message in his eyes. Guilt, or maybe regret. I left early, claiming I was tired. When I got home, I sat on my bed, my hands trembling. I felt foolish. Was it all just a game to him? Was I just someone he flirted with to pass the time while waiting for Julia? The next morning, I didn't go to the coffee shop. For the first time in months, I skipped it. I couldn't bear to see him. But by Wednesday, I found myself there again, unable to stay away. And there he was, Daniel. He walked over, his voice soft. Claire, wait. Can we talk? I wanted to walk out. I wanted to scream at him. But instead, I sat down. He leaned in. I didn't plan this. Meeting you at the shop, it felt real. It was real. But Julia, she was already in my life. I didn't know how to tell you. I stared at him, my chest tight. You should have told me from the start. I know. His voice cracked. But I can't stop thinking about you. Those words were the worst of all because they echoed the truth in my own heart. I did think about him. I missed him when he wasn't there. But Julia was my best friend. How could I betray her? Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You have to make a choice, Daniel. And so do I. I won't be someone's secret. I stood and walked away before he could answer. The days after were heavy. I ignored his presence in the shop, avoided his gaze, tried to focus on work. But every time Julia called to tell me how happy she was with him, my heart cracked a little more. Weeks passed. One morning, I walked into the coffee shop and realized he wasn't there. Not the next day either. Or the next. His absence hurt more than his presence ever did. I never asked Julia what happened. Some part of me didn't want to know. But sometimes when I sit by the window with my coffee, I think about him, about us, about how something so small, two people meeting over lattes and muffins, could feel like destiny and still end in silence. Life goes on, but there are mornings when I still search the doorway, half expecting him to walk in. Because some strangers leave behind more than just memories. They leave behind questions that will never have answers.